I'm El Donzo.
I'm Deez.
And you know what I want to talk about in this segment, bro? China. Okay? As Donald Trump would say. I think that's how he said it. Am I right? Yeah.
Pretty close.
China. Anyway, China. I want to preface this right now by saying China is not our friend. They're our enemy. And China's been in the news quite a bit this week. I want to start off with this, and then we'll kind of build from there. Gateway Pundit story. China's influence growing. Polls suggest Taiwan may already be lost. As was reported by the Gateway Pundit previously, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken's reiteration of the long-standing One China policy provides tacit approval for China to invade Taiwan. Just on Monday, he had met with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and he was saying that they do not pretty much support Taiwan. He believes in the One China policy, and he supports it, which is pretty much saying if you go into Taiwan, we're not going to do anything about it. Did you get a chance to read over this at all?
Yeah.
Okay, so a recent poll released by the Taiwanese Public Opinion Foundation suggests a substantial shift in Taiwan's political landscape, which would render military invasion unnecessary. A June 16th story from the South China Morning Post further explains how demographic changes in the Taiwanese electorate threaten to irrevocably alter the current balance of power. If polling holds through scheduled elections in 2024, the resulting outcome would almost certainly undermine domestic support for independence from mainland China. Now, are you familiar with Gordon Chang?
No.
Okay, we're going to go over this right now. This is another article that ties in with this, and this one's from Microsoft. Actually, it's a Fox News one. It's on Microsoft. Gordon Chang predicts that the unacceptable China trip looks like World War III. And in this article, he talks about all the hot wars going on right now and the stuff with China and Taiwan. And if we allow this to fester more than it has, and we continue to support China, who, remember, is supporting Russia, who wants to wipe us off the face of the planet. You got all these little wars popping up all over the globe, okay? And eventually NATO's going to get brought into this. So let me find this thing that Gordon Chang said. He said this: remember, we're talking about a totalitarian state in China where the Chinese military, which operated the spy balloon, is not a state military. That's what Gordon Chang said. He went on, Anthony Blinken said this: President Biden asked me to travel to Beijing because he believes that the United States and China have an obligation and responsibility to manage our relationship. The United States is committed to doing that. It's in the interest of the United States, in the interest of China, and in the interest of the world. He's going over there and kissing Xi Jinping's butt and pretty much bending the knee to China. That's what Anthony Blinken just did.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay? Think about this. Why on earth would the leader of the free world want to bend the knee to China? If you're listening right now, I want you to really, really think about this. It's because he's already been bought. Now, we talked about in the last segment, Hunter Biden and Burisma. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Joe Biden's a grifter. And a grifter doesn't just grift one time and, oh, I'm done, I'm never doing that again. That's how they make their living. They have been bought by these countries. Here's a good one for you. This ties in with it as well. So we know there's heating up in Taiwan. We know it's already a crap show over in Ukraine right now. I know there's been people sent over there. I know that Americans have been firing at Russians. Okay, that's happened. They're just keeping it on the DL. It's already a hot war. Okay? Now check this out. Biden made this big excuse for Xi Jinping. Did you get a chance to hear about this or read it?
No.
All right, this is from the New York Post. We're going to read a little bit of this for you. President Biden kicked off his first day of campaigning for re-election by making excuses for communist China, saying that President Xi Jinping never meant to fly a spy balloon over sensitive American military sites earlier this year. Quote, I don't think the leadership knew where it was and knew what was in it and knew what was going on, he told the reporters on Saturday as he headed to Philadelphia. He continued, I think it was more embarrassing than it was intentional.
Right.
He continues, I'm hoping that over the next several months I'll be meeting with Xi again and talking about legitimate differences we have, but also how to get along. Republicans were obviously outraged at Biden's anemic take on the incursion. Of course they are. Aren't you? They flew a spy balloon over us.
Over the entire country.
Over all these Air Force bases, and Joe Biden comes out and just pretty much makes excuses for him.
Suspiciously spending more time over strategic military sites than over anywhere else. But they lost it. They didn't have control over it, but it just magically stopped around nuclear sites and around military bases and things of that nature. But yeah, they weren't controlling nothing.
So he makes an excuse for the Chinese, and he goes on. Biden's China comments came shortly before he took off in Marine One for a 40-minute aerial tour of cleanup efforts at the I-95 overpass that collapsed in Philadelphia this week. Did you get a chance to read about that at all?
About the collapse?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. I don't know details other than the bridge pretty much.
Yeah, that's bad news. I can't remember how many people were injured and killed in that. I don't know if you can pull that up. We can talk about that later or not.
I could be wrong, but I don't think there were any deaths.
But there was injuries.
I believe so, yeah.
So he's heading over to do an aerial tour of the I-95 cleanup. He goes on, there's no more important project to the country right now as far as I'm concerned. He's talking about the disaster. And I get that's a big thing. But how can you honestly sit there and say there's no more important project to the country right now? Everything going on in the world, and this guy just cops out and lays down. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm sorry. I was looking up this story. I don't even, nothing surprises me with this administration anymore. It really doesn't. There were casualties.
How many casualties in that collapse?
I think one. It just says human remains. I believe it was the truck driver.
Gotcha.
It was a tanker truck that exploded.
But so this guy's going around, he's campaigning, and now he's making excuses for China. And then Anthony Blinken comes out and says he supports the one China policy. Something's really bad here. This rot that's inherent in our system is really, really deep, and I think it's disgusting.
Yeah, I think what it boils down to is all this stuff going on with Russia and Ukraine, which oddly we don't hear a whole lot about anymore, but they know China is on their side. And this is basically just your, good old fashioned butt kissing hey, don't send 4 billion soldiers into Alaska or whatever and march down here.
So here's the thing with this too. We've talked about this before. Everything that seems to be going on between China and the United States, if you go back to the Afghanistan withdrawal, we talked about that ad nauseum. And I want to remind everybody that China's Belt and Road Initiative goes through the Middle East, okay? And I think the only country they didn't have control of that they were missing to get this completed was Afghanistan. And if you look at the way that Joe Biden pulled out, now look, this wasn't Joe Biden's sole doing, the way that they pulled out of Afghanistan. He's got a lot of people on his team and a lot of people advising him, okay? They wouldn't just let him do it like that if there wasn't a reason for it. That's why I think all these people are bought off by China. China's been doing this for 50 years with people in our government and the most powerful people in our country to try and make this happen. The Afghanistan withdrawal, people go, I don't know why he did that. He got those 14 Marines killed over there at, what was it? Was it Bagram? It was Kabul Airport. Mm-hmm. Got 14 Marines killed. I just can't figure out why he did that. Because he was told to do it. Because they were all told to do it. China benefited from that so much. The first thing they got out of it was, like I said, the Belt and Road Initiative. The second thing they got out of it was it demoralized our allies. It made us look like we were not dependable over there. Okay?
Because they got a whole lot of free equipment as well.
Yeah, we left, what was it? How many billions of dollars in equipment we left over there that the Taliban took over and took pictures of it and the uniforms and everything, which was a big smack in our face. It weakened us. That's like the fall of Saigon for our generation is what that was. Actually, I think it was worse than that. What do you think? Worse than Saigon? I think it was.
I mean, I wasn't alive during Saigon, so I can't
I wasn't either, but I know enough about it. We had 20 years over there. China is literally running the world at this point.
Oh, well, yeah.
Now, some good news, though. And we got to tie in, we got some stuff that ties into this. Deez, I know you got a story about my two favorite ladies. We're going to get into in a little bit.
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and it was Lauren Boebert, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me start this off. Then I want to hear your story. And folks, you're going to love this. Okay.